So when I was about 20, I have a younger sister, and at that time she was about 12. And that day she was sitting in the living room crying and upset. So I went up to her and I asked, "What's the matter?" And she said that she had an exam at school the next day and that she knew she would fail. I asked her to bring the book and her notebook so that we could look at it together. Now, she was quite flustered. She didn't want to do this. She was absolutely certain that she would fail, and she was stuck in this idea. So the first thing I needed to do was that I needed to help her calm down. So first I said, okay, well, why don't we look at what the exam is going to ask you, because it's obviously going to be what you've learned this term. So let's just look at what you've learned this term and we can do this together. So we did sit down together. We looked at the material and we went through it step by step. Then I showed her how to take some notes so that she could remember. And then we spoke about what the material said. We went through the notes again. And then she went to bed. Next day, after I came back from uni, I asked her, "So how did it go?" And she said it had gone really well. So she was perfectly able to pass her test. And the reason why she thought she wasn't was because of her thinking, because she thought that she wouldn't be able to. So this is something that happens to most of us. We get caught up in what we think. So the way we think about ourselves and our abilities plays a huge part in what we actually go ahead and do. If you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button and invite the bell to be notified every time I upload new content, which will be relevant to you if you are looking to become proficient in English. If we haven't met yet, my name is Tanya Meyer and I'm an English teacher to adults. And in this video, we'll be looking at the 5 absolute essentials that you will need to become a proficient, confident, fluent, and articulate user of English as a second language. And in fact, you can apply these 5 S's to any language that you're learning as an adult. So let's get started. Okay, so let's talk about the first S, and it is stop. Now, I have spoken about stopping in another video, and I will leave a link for you to watch that video right here. But let's talk a little bit more about what stopping means, because, we think we can stop at any time, but actually it's not as easy as we think, because we have this habit energy to continue, to move forward. And we think that if we stop, we're somehow going against the grain. Thich Nhat Hanh has this wonderful book called Silence, which I really recommend. The Power of Quiet in a World Full of Noise. And in chapter 2, which is called Radio Non-Stop Thinking, he says, even if we are not talking with others, reading, listening to the radio, watching television, or interacting online, most of us don't feel settled or quiet. This is because we're still tuned to an internal radio station, radio non-stop thinking. Even when we're still, with no external stimuli, an endless internal dialogue may be going on in our head. We're constantly consuming our thoughts. We're constantly consuming our thoughts. Cows, goats, and buffalo chew their food, swallow it, then regurgitate and re-chew it multiple times. We may not be cows or buffalo, but we ruminate just the same on our thoughts. Unfortunately, primarily negative thoughts. We eat them and then we bring them up to chew again and again. So the question of stopping is, first of all, becoming aware of the fact that this radio station non-stop thinking is going on in our head, and that we are not at its mercy, that we can exercise sovereignty over that non-stop thinking and find peace within ourselves. By peace, I mean find a place of quiet, a place of space, a place to breathe, and this is the first step to becoming an effective learner, because we are going to learn a lot better if there is space, if there is calm. If our thoughts are going on in our head, there's no space for anything, there's no availability. We're not really there. We're not really there. So what we need to do is to train ourselves to stop. And the best way of doing that is by implementing a bell of mindfulness. Mindfulness, because we're going to train ourselves to wake up from the trance of thinking. One way of doing this is to download an app called Plum Village. And in Plum Village, there is a mindfulness bell that you can set to whatever interval you prefer, whether it's half-hour intervals or 1-hour intervals. And the invitation is that when you hear the bell, as any bell would indicate that it's time to do something, an alarm bell indicates that it's time to wake up. A school bell indicates that the class is over, or that it's break time, or that school is finished for the day. So we are quite used to this idea of bells giving us information about what to do next. So the invitation is, when we hear the bell of mindfulness, then we stop whatever we're doing and we bring our attention to our breathing. In, out. And we follow our in-breath and our out-breath 3 times, and then we continue with whatever it is we're doing. So that is the first step, and it might seem completely unrelated to becoming proficient in English, but trust me, if you implement this strategy, just stopping and coming back to your in-breath and out-breath 3 times, if you do this every day, your life will be transformed. Okay, what is the second S? It's sit. Now, this might be very easy for some people who are used to sitting and contemplating and reflecting, and it might be a little bit more challenging for others who find it very difficult to keep still. Sitting is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. Think of it as self-care, as a new habit that you can implement, especially early in the morning, first thing in the morning. If you need to set your alarm 15 or 20 minutes earlier than you would normally, then it really is worth the effort. You get up, you go to a particular place that you have already set up beforehand, hopefully the same place you use every day, and you set a timer to sit in contemplation for 15 to 20 minutes. Plum Village app can be really helpful with this. Just doing a simple meditation every day, either mindfulness of breathing, that is being aware of the in-breath and the out-breath in the present moment, or generating loving kindness. That's a metta bhavana meditation that you can find in this app here called Insight Timer. The metta bhavana is a way of developing loving kindness, and we develop this quality towards ourselves in the first instance, and then towards others, people we're close to, people we're not close to, and people that we have difficulties with. Because whether we have difficulties with people or not, everybody wants the same thing, which is to be free from suffering and to be happy. But having lots of difficulties with people means that our mind is busy in that ruminating state. And so developing loving kindness towards ourselves and others is a way of becoming free from mental affliction. Comment below if you have used stopping or sitting to improve your English language skills. And if so, how has it been for you? Share your experience with us. Because of course, stopping and sitting is going to have an impact on all our life, not only our language skills, but everything we do will be imbued by this quality of not being in a hurry, of stopping, of sitting, and of enjoying the present moment. So when we practice in that way, we become much more able to focus, to concentrate, and we bring lightness and joy to whatever we do as well. And so with these two practices, we improve all our life, but of course, our language skills are especially benefited. The third S is to study. Yes, I was telling you the anecdote about my sister when she was a child. And the fact is that many of us are not taught how to study. We just go to school, and some of us are lucky enough to be able to pass all our exams without studying, and others find some kind of methodology that helps them to remember. To be honest, I have no idea how it is that I passed from one school year to another, because I do not remember sitting down to study until I was about 17. And that is the honest truth. Until the age of 17, I just got by. But at 17, I needed to pass an exam. And so that was the first time that I thought about, okay, what do I need to do to know this information? And what I needed to do was to sit and study it. There was no other way. I couldn't put the papers on top of my head and expect the information to seep into my mind. There was just no way I was going to pass unless I studied. So finding an effective way of studying is one of the 5 S's. And that can be anything from preparing a cheat sheet to working with spreadsheets, to creating Word docs, to doing research online. Whatever it is, if you already have a system, then that's great. If you would like support with an effective system, then please get in touch. You'll find my details below in the description box. What happens when you sit? What happens is that when we sit in stillness and our thoughts start to settle, then space opens up, as well as clarity of thought and clarity of speech and clarity of action, because we have been sitting in silence, and then things are revealed to us. You know, we don't need to go running after. We can simply sit in contemplation, especially if we sit with a group of people, because then we generate collective energy, which is very powerful. But if we sit with ourselves or with a group in meditation, it won't be long before what we need to do opens up before us. So we become much more clear about what needs to be done and what we shouldn't do also. So that is seeing clearly. And the final S. The final S is socialize. If you want to put your language skills to use, then you need to find a platform. You need to find somewhere where there are either other language learners that you can interact with, and what you have in common is that you're studying English or that you want to improve your English. And if this is something that you want to do, again, join my community. Yes, the links are below. The other option is to join a community of native English speakers who discuss topics that you are interested in. Let me give you an example. Imagine that you're interested in history, or in geography, or in medicine, or in sports. Yes, any of these topics. Simply look for opportunities to join native speakers speaking about those topics, and there you will have a platform to listen to English, but also to practice it. Of course, in the meantime, if you need to be studying, if you need to be doing exercises, if you need a teacher, if you need your lessons, then that's fine. You know, in order to make true progress with our English, we need to be as immersive as we can. In other words, we need to be in direct contact with the language that we're learning as often as possible. Of course, we need to be realistic as to the degree to which you can be immersive, but the more immersive you are, the more you organize your time so that you're either sitting or studying or socializing, then you will see huge improvement in your language skills. And if you're struggling or stuck or anxious when it comes to interacting in English, then please check out my free guide to revolutionize your English. You can download that. I'll speak soon. Bye for now.